Welcome everyone to a new video. Today we'll be going over the Tailorshop clothing in the Halifax Bay Area, part 1 out of 2. I can only buy out the bottom floor of the store as it was well over 50 items and also cost £5,800 in the game. So hopefully you guys enjoy and are interested in some of the clothing that I do end up wearing throughout the video. Let's get right into it. As the Halifax Bay Area is a complete safe zone, of course we will be playing on colonists to have easy access to this. However, all other teams are more than welcome to come to the bay and buy items in the tailor shop to get the clothing for themselves. So overall, this tutorial can be useful to every team, mostly for the reasons that it does provide warmth from getting clothes in the game and other accessories. Now, briefly, I did want to make a few mentions prior to the fact that I will be buying out the bottom floor in the tailor shop for £5,800, is towards the fact that, of course, I don't recommend doing this. It is very difficult and quite expensive to do something like this, so if you are going to pick it out, of course they do have displays in the store, but you can't see it on your actual character. This video is just displaying what it actually looks like on your character, how much warmth it provides, and other statistics, so you're more than welcome to look at it for yourself. Stuff like that, and of course, if you guys do actually want to play the game, you're more than welcome to when full release comes out. At the moment, we're still waiting on that a little bit, but it does seem more confident now that the game will full release within a handful of days, rather than a kind of failed set date that they kind of made originally, so it does look better, and they're updating at a daily pace. Those are the mentions, and on to the clothing. I just sped the duration of this up because I know how long it took me to do all of this and buy everything and mark down all the names of the items. So obviously we'll hop into it by mentioning a few things within the game. Of course, most clothing is an expensive item. It does provide extra warmth, anywhere from 25 to 40 warmth per piece of clothing. However, most of them land in the 30 to 35 range within the price range of 100 to 500. And of course, from this on the bottom floor, most items that I did buy were on the £100 to £300 side, however some of them went over, of course. So as I continued to buy everything on every single rack in the game, I did recognize that of course if you are going to ever buy more than one piece of clothing, that they are permanent items. Of course, clothing, as you obviously know by now, is not exactly a cheap item. It is good that it is permanent, of course, and if you ever do want to trade with clothing or something like that to a native, sometimes that can be slightly useful just based off of, the value of that. So, by going over, what clothing generally is, in the game, of course, it is extremely beneficial through, both trading routes, getting warmth, and everything else, which just benefits you in a battle or anywhere else that you're going to be on the map, hunting even, or just generally, playing the game. And a beneficial and monetary understanding of a little part of the game is that newer players typically will not have expensive clothing, and obviously from that you can kind of determine somewhat a threat level. If they're wearing a faction uniform, that usually puts them on the very high end. Same with being of a uniform that costs upwards of £1,000. They typically land on the higher range of targets, meaning if you're going to try to attack that person for a looting strategy, which I mentioned in another video as a way of making money, then it becomes increasingly difficult to kill those people. So I do often recommend aiming for people if you are going to attack people first, because generally when you're aiming with someone that has lesser money in the game and is a little bit newer, you're going to get that kill, so it is recommended, generally aim for the person that doesn't have as good clothing. So if you understand that method, then of course things get a little bit easier for you within the game's aspects as well as a fighting stance. If you understand the benefits, of course, of clothing within the game, then you're able to determine keeping up extra warmth, of course, will provide for you to walk faster, keep up with people you're raiding with or friends that you're just casually hanging out with in the game, and from that we're able to determine that, of course, you should buy accessories and clothing within the game. So getting into the clothing, we'll begin with the Unexpected Journeyman. The price of this in the store for each of its colors is $300. It comes in the colors of green, black, brown, and red in the game. I'll be showing these off briefly and then mentioning the next one throughout all of these, and eventually I do remove my faction scarf and compass about halfway through the list, as I mentioned. Next up, we have the Modern Vinlander. The Modern Vinlander comes in basic, as I'm wearing now, blue, and also red. It costs £100 in the tailor shop. From here, we move on to the Ironside. The Ironside uniform comes in regular and also white. It is sold in the tailor shop for £100 of each of the uniforms. Next up is the tea stain. The tea stain is actually the basic colonist uniform. You spawn in with this uniform, there is no customization screen to get anything different, so for the moment, when you load into the game for the first time as a colonist, you will actually receive this. It is as well sold in the tailor shop for £100 in-game. From here, we move into the Tarnished Jacker. The Tarnished Jacker is also a uniform that is actively used by myself in all of my videos and costs in the tailor shop £100, making it a cheap uniform. Yes, I dress cheap. The next uniform is the Mestizo. The Mestizo is a Spanish uniform, of course, as well as being a £500 in the tailor shop uniform to get. At this point, I took off my faction scarf and compass, so give me a minute before I get into the next uniform as well. From here, we move into the civilian coat. The civilian coat is sold in the tailor shop for £140. It is actively a very beautiful uniform, as well as being something of the patriotic frontier as of the game's time period. And from this, we go to the militia coat, which in the tailor shop cost £500, a big contrast to, of course, the civilian coat as prior. Although it is a little bit more beautiful, and of course, does have designs on it that aren't on the previous coat, that make it a little bit greater of a design overall. From here, we move on to the Abenzer Basic. Of course, this uniform is a decently beautiful uniform, however, it does lean towards, of course, looking like a butler, so it is kind of a strange one as well. I personally don't like this, but it is, of course, sold in the tailor shop for $500 each if you are interested in it, and of course, nobody will judge you. As well, it does come in the color green, as I'm wearing it this time. From here, we move on to the hats. We begin in the hats with a hat called the Red Toke. The Red Toke looks like a Santa hat generally, in my opinion, and is sold in the tailor shop for a total of £500, making it one of the most expensive hats in the game. However, if you are looking for a little bit of Christmas spirit, it's always there. From here, we move on to the black fur hat. The black fur hat is a commonly used hat by most factions and players, as it is a cheap accessory, costing £100 in the tailor shop of the game. As well as the bandana, which also there is the option to get the deluxe bandana, however this is sold in the side of the store. It is sold in the tailor shop for £100, of course, as well, if you are interested in getting a bandana, as well as the black fur hat. From there, we move on to the Prepared Survivor. The Prepared Survivor is sold in the tailor shop for £150 in the game. This is a commonly used basic hat and liked by many new combatants and players of the game. Next up is a hat called the Brown Tricorn. This is sold in the tailor shop for £150 pretty actively and is a favorite of the colonist team. It is recommended that you get this hat sooner or later, as it's quite beautiful. As well, the Dark Brown Bowler, which is sold in the tailor shop for £150. This is a very common hat, of course, and most players do like it, as it usually suits the player's desires and needs within the game to their look. From here, we move into the Grey Tricorn, which is an expensive version of the Brown Tricorn, and is sold in the tailor shop for £350, and does blend in with darker surroundings, including the rocks of the game and actively some of the defenses. And finally, we move on to the Tan Bowler, which is sold in the tailor shop for £450. Looks like a small mafia hat pretty often. Doesn't exactly fit my head in the game, however it may fit yours, so you might want to check it out sometime, and it's a wonderful little hat in the game. And of course, putting my own uniform back on, which I like it the best, the old Tricorn, which sells in the tailor shop for £80 of course, and that pretty much sums up the bottom floor of the game in the tailor shop for the Halifax safe zone area. Of course, in the future I will be covering more of the entirety of the tailor shop, however that'll be the top floor and likely will be in the future as part 2. They'll be put together on a playlist, so you're more than welcome to check that out in about a week, and from that I can conclude that in total it cost £5,800 to buy everything on the bottom floor of the tailor shop, and I can't imagine, because the top is more expensive, how much that would cost, so I'm greatly willing to find out in the future, as well as, of course, the merchant in probably that part 2 as well. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it a ton. Feel free to go follow us over at Yacker Official on Twitch. Join my Discord or the main Discord of the game, linked in the description below, as well as leaving a like and subscribing. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.